All right, so today I wanted to dive into a topic I've talked a lot about before, but I wanted to dive into it a little deeper. In that, this is from The Hill with Tim Kennedy responding. The Hill says world's richest people added 1.8 trillion to their combined wealth in 2020, and Tim Kennedy says number one, kill small businesses. Number two, destroy the family unit. Number three, divide people. Now, again, there's many aspects I could talk about when it comes to this stuff. I could talk forever about it probably, but um, the most important thing I think is we have a very large percent of the population that is worried about the gap between the rich and the poor, right? The gap between the rich and the poor is this huge issue we got to be worried about. But yet, that same group of people overwhelmingly supported the policies that led to this gap between the rich and the poor getting bigger. And this is the problem with a lot of these people nowadays is that they're useful idiots, right? They're useful idiots because number one, they vote for these people under the guise that they're going to help this stuff, right? They vote for these people under the guise they're going to help this stuff. But again, I mean, look at the state that most of these people are from. That Bezos and I mean Musk, I think, is moving. He may have already moved. Zuckerberg and these kind of people live in. Like it's California, what the state with the highest. I mean, aside from New York City, I think as it would be the place that has the highest taxes, I believe, in the U.S. But aside from that, they live in the state that has the highest taxes, the most regulations. But yet, which state has the biggest gap between the rich and the poor? Now, again, I'm not 100% sure it's California, but I would be very shocked if it wasn't California because you have probably the most billionaires in the state, and yet you have in San Francisco, Los Angeles, you have tens of thousands of maybe even into the hundreds of thousands of homeless people in Los Angeles, right? So again, if these progressive policies work so good, then why is the this problem that they're claiming to want to fix so much the worst in their area, right? Why is it the worst in their area? And this is just all the more proof you need that these people are just useful idiots. They're useful idiots. And again, what about the people at the top? Well, and this is another reason too that a lot of times you hear too is, oh, this rich guy wants to be taxed more, right? They want to be taxed more. Well, number one, they really don't understand how rich people get rich. They don't understand how rich people deal with their money, and they don't understand just how corrupt the system is. At least they understand how corrupt the system is when it's the other side in power. They genuinely believe that, one's, susceptibility to corruption depends on their political worldview, which is absolutely insane, right? It's absolutely insane. Um, but again, just a brief thing when it comes to rich people. Again, when you hear that, Jeff Bezos has this much money, Elon Musk has this much money, they don't actually have that much physical money. They don't have that much money in a bank account, not even close. The vast majority of these people's wealth are tied up in stock of their companies, right? Meaning they don't have it in liquid assets, right? You can't buy a house. Well, actually, you can, but I'll get into that soon. But you can't physically buy a house straight up with stock of a company. Now, speaking of that, one of the reasons this is another thing you always hear too. Oh, Jeff Bezos only paid this much in taxes and whatever. Um, Okay, well, the way that the people, and this is the same thing goes for Trump too. Like this, only Trump only paid $5 million of taxes, right? They don't understand how the tax system works, right? They have absolutely no idea how any of that stuff works. And number one, they don't understand the concept of being able to write off losses. They don't understand any of this kind of stuff. And another thing they don't understand too is that when you accumulate a capital gain, you only have to pay taxes on that capital gain if you realize it, right? You only have to pay capital gains if you realize it. Again, if you have a property, let's say you're Donald Trump and you buy a property for $10 million, you turn around and sell it for $20 million down the road, you only have to pay taxes if you actually want to, have that on your income, right? If you turn around and spend that $20 million on another property, you don't have to pay taxes on that, right? That's one of the many reasons why people don't understand how any of this stuff works. Number two, one of the ways, I mean, a crazy thing that you see when it comes to a lot of these quote unquote rich people is you'll notice their actual salary is actually pretty low. Like a lot of these guys have salaries like $1 million or in the millions of dollars, which is very surprising considering their net worth is in the tens or hundreds of billions of dollars. You'd think it would be a lot higher. Okay, well, how do they get away with being able to live their lifestyle um, with such little actual salary? Well, how they do it is that let's say they want to buy a house, let's say they want to, buy whatever. They simply, but and again, they simply would, let's say they want to buy a $10 million house, they would simply put up $10 million of shares as collateral for the house, and as long as they make the payments, they're going to um, get the house. Because again, the capital gains tax on their paying if they were to decide to cash out their shares is going to be a lot more than the very low percent interest they're going to pay on a loan, right? Because the chances of one of these guys defaulting on a loan is incredibly low. Like it's incredibly low, meaning they're going to get a very good rate. So that's another way that these guys get around paying taxes, is they simply, if they want to buy something, they simply put up shares as collateral, and again, because they have so much money, they're going to get a very, very low rate, meaning they're going to save a lot of money because, again, if they wanted to buy it, they would have to cash out shares. Now, again, they still cash out shares. I mean, Jeff Bezos, I think, cashed out quite a bit last year, but I'm just saying on average. Another one of the many crazy things, I think I've told this story before too, that again, I overheard a conversation a while back, about it was a typical conservative guy and a typical like NDP socialist guy, and the NDP kind of socialist. I mean, I don't know if he was a socialist. I think he was an NDP supporter, but anyway, he was skeptical of the other guy who was a conservative. And the one thing that he kept coming back to is, I agree with you on a lot of stuff, but I just don't understand why anybody needs $1 billion or billions of dollars in a bank account. And the craziest thing is that the guy that he was talking with was the the owner of the company, right? The owner of the company, which really bothered me because, I'm some lowly employee, and I have a much better answer to come back at this guy than the owner of the company, right? And the very simple answer is that nobody has $1 billion in a bank account. Like nobody has $1 billion in a bank account. Number one, especially in Alberta, right? This guy was talking about Alberta, right? Alberta has like what, 4 or 5 billionaires. Not no one in Alberta has $1 billion in a bank account. Probably no one even in Canada. I don't even think Bezos or Musk or any of these people would have $1 billion in a bank account, because how you get rich is by using money in the opposite way that poor people use money. Poor people use money, a lot more on stuff that doesn't bring them value. Again, rich people will, when they get money, they will turn around and invest it in stock, in property, in things that generate them more money, right? Poor people, they get some money and they go spend it on a TV or a new iPhone, or they go to eat, or any of this kind of stuff, right? Um, so again, those are some of the many misconceptions, I think, that when it comes to people getting rich and all this kind of stuff, that there's so many misconceptions it's not even funny. But getting back to the main point here, um, again, these are the same people that supported this stuff, right? Again, these are the same people that supported this stuff, which is just shows that they're useful idiots, and I think just shows that you shouldn't be trusting these people, right? You shouldn't be trusting these people. Like you have Jagmeet Singh, who's a guy that always comes out and complains about this, but yet where is he criticizing the lockdowns, right? Where is he criticizing the lockdowns? Well, it's not happening, right? It's not happening. The conservatives are complaining about, the amount of debt and the amount of unemployment and all this kind of stuff, but yet where are they criticizing the lockdowns? They're not doing it either. And I think this is one of the biggest problems, is that, at least in Canada, because in the States there is some, but in Canada there's no opposition to this stuff. There is no opposition to this stuff. Every single province, pretty much every single province right now, and the federal government are operating as de facto dictators, right? They're operating as de facto dictators. You have Most of the time you have one side that wants lockdowns and another side that wants martial law, right? You have, I mean, take Alberta. You have the NDP who want even more strict restrictions. They want to kill businesses even more, right? So, like I said, I think the big point here is that it just astounds me how many people can complain about, how much they care so much about the little guy, and they care so much about the working class, the middle class, right? But yet they turn around and support policies that hurt the middle class to really really hurts the middle class so much it's not even funny, right? It hurts the middle class so much it's not even funny. Like, where are these people defending small business owners? I think the reality, I think, is because, again, if they actually believed what they believe, they would be defending them. So it must be something else, right? It must be something else. And I think that something else is that they know that the vast majority of small business owners are not leftists, right? The vast majority of business owners are not leftists. And not to mention, too, they know that most of the people that have kept their jobs up until this point, the union workers, basically, all the teachers and the healthcare workers and all these union people, they've kept their job, right? They've kept their job, right? They're still getting paid. So I think the reason why the left is so silent about this stuff is that their side hasn't really suffered much, and they know that small business owners are overwhelmingly right wingers, which is why I don't think they care, right? It's why I don't think they care, because, again, there has to be something else going on here. There has to be something else that they're not being honest about, because, again, if they actually cared about, the gap between the rich and the poor and all this kind of stuff, they would be calling it out. And the fact that they're not doing it must be there's something else going on, right? It must be there's something else going on. Um, so anyway, that's kind of what I wanted to bring up today. But again, I think it just really, really astounds me. Like, it really astounds me. And this is, I think, the last point I wanted to bring up too, in that these people that want more regulations and more taxes and all this stuff, it doesn't hurt the rich, right? It doesn't hurt the rich, right? Like I brought up too, if it did, explain California, right? Explain California if it does. Um, and the reality behind it is too is that when the government raises taxes, when the government raises regulations, it usually hurts the middle class and the upper middle class the most, right? When they raise taxes on the quote unquote rich, the people that are hurt the most are the doctors and the lawyers of the world that, yeah, they're very well off, but they don't have three or four houses. They don't have a net worth in massive net worth, right? They're making, two, three, maybe upwards of $500,000 a year, right? That is not filthy rich by any means, right? So again, they raise taxes on those people the same as they raise taxes on billionaires. But again, the billionaires find ways around it. Again, the billionaires find ways around it. They buy off who they need to buy off. Again, they will always find ways around it, right? This is another one of the fundamental reasons why the left is so crazy, because, again, they genuinely believe that, after all the things that they've done to quote unquote, make them pay their fair share, that this time it's going to work out, right? This time it's going to work out, when it never does, right? It never does. So anyway, that's what I wanted to bring up today. So if you liked the video, make sure you hit that like and subscribe if you haven't already. Make sure you check out those links below. Follow me on those other platforms. Again, that's very important with all the censorship going on these days. Make sure you check me out there. If you want to donate, you can do that as well. Again, I would appreciate whatever support I can get. So like I say, check out those links and stay tuned for more.